Please give a big hand once again for Tim Oliver.
Well, thanks, James. Yeah, I was just saying to James, I'm not sure how I ended up doing 2 talks this year. Like, normally what I do is I try and get a read on what the overall talks at the conference will be, and I submit a bunch. And this time, I heard back from Paris, and Paris was like, thanks for the submissions, Tim. We'll take the lot. And I'm like, wait, what? So, yeah. And just really quickly before I get started, something I was following from what Russell and Mark just talked about. Yeah, I've tried doing some vibe coding as well. Just using AI to try and work out if I have a really quick task I want to solve. For example, I was trying to write a little utility that extracted EXIF data from a photo, and when you ask it a question that's on the beaten path, it was probably on Stack Overflow a bunch of times, it'll give you a really good answer and the code will work. But yeah, the second you go off track and try and ask something that maybe no one else has done and it's not on Google or whatever, it'll give you a really confident, completely made up answer. And I feel moving forward in that world space, it's going to be up to us to identify from this kind of code how valid it is. I like the fact that I'm seeing on LinkedIn that a new job role coming up is vibe coding cleanup specialist, and so I feel like this is the future of careers and everything. Anyway, on that note, let's talk about some AI some more. So, thanks for coming. Long time no see. I remember it was just like it was yesterday. Good to see you all. Yeah. Boy, doesn't time fly. Yeah, so I feel like this talk is going to be so hopefully in between what Amy was discussing yesterday and hopefully what Rob will be talking about later today, in that I just want to do a really quick introduction to what Apple Intelligence is and then how it applies to the foundation models. Do a really quick hello dev world, hey, on how we actually use the foundation models. And then talk about some applications of why this is useful, from my own perspective, so I'm not just regurgitating all the content from the Apple Dub videos. And then talk about stuff that maybe this isn't so good for, I think we're definitely in the mindset right now that when you have an AI hammer, everything looks like a nail. So I want to talk about that in that little regard. And then time permitting, maybe some deep discussion and / whining about the discussion on AI in general, which I feel like is going to be a running theme today. Cool. Anyway, so Dub happened this year. Did anyone actually go to Dub? I didn't get a chance to. No one. Wow. Okay. Okay. Cool. That's a first. But the main theme of Dub this year is clearly Liquid Glass, which was fantastic. I'm assuming everyone's got their apps ready for the iOS 26 launch, which is imminent. Yep. Updated the P list. Yeah, updated the P list to opt out for a year. Yep, there we go. Yeah, I'm assuming everyone's done that. Yeah, I've done that. Yeah. So Liquid Glass was the main theme of Dub this year. But just before the Liquid Glass section rolled off, Craig did this really quick introduction to a thing called the Foundation Models Framework, where he said that we're going to open up on-device models to third-party developers so they could actually use it in their own apps. And I was like, whoa, that sounds cool. There's a lot of potential here. That sounds great. So I was really excited. For that first 5 minutes of Dub, I was really, really hyped. And then when Liquid Glass got announced, I immediately descended into this PTSD, just when iOS 6 and 7 happened, this entire changeover of the design system, and now you're gonna have to support 2 concurrent versions potentially, and I really hope that this year around, I think this time iOS 26 is still very close to iOS 7's design language, so it's not as traumatizing as 6 was to 7, but yeah, good luck everyone. That's it's gonna be fun. So anyway, hold up. What is Apple Intelligence exactly? So it was a technology that was announced at Dub 24. I actually did get to go to this one. I met Joz. Joz is a lovely chap. I was told by third parties that Joz's shirt there is worth more than me, so that checks out for an Apple exec. During Dub 2024, Craig announced Apple Intelligence, and the idea was, looks like we've been pronouncing AI has been wrong all this time. It's not artificial intelligence, it's Apple Intelligence. We can get it wrong all this time. And the idea here was it's a low-level series of intelligence systems that then power a variety of services and features that Apple now offers to all of its users, including things like Siri, although Siri was a contentious topic at Dub this year about its AI capabilities. But Apple Intelligence also powers things like on-device LLMs, so you can do things like AI summaries. And if anyone saw the news, there was some pretty hilarious AI summaries of push notifications, what was it? One person said, I got a DoorDash at the front and, delivery at the back. And so Apple Intelligence said, your house is currently surrounded. Just stuff like that. So, and then, image generation as well. You got, Swift Playgrounds and you've got Genmoji. So this is a whole series of, capabilities being powered by this underlying system. And it's actually broken up into three tiers of capability. You've got the on-device models, so there's actual LLMs and AI models on your device. And then if it tries to do a task that it doesn't think the on-device models are capable of doing, It'll then defer to Apple, what's it called, Apple AI Private Cloud Compute, where it'll do a anonymized and privatized request for what you're trying to do on the servers and return that data. So done in proper Apple fashion, where it protects privacy and your data. And then you have the option, like if even that doesn't work, you can then have the option to sign up with ChatGPT in the settings app, and then you can actually forward that request to ChatGPT, but make sure to get your permission first, because you realize that now you're going off Apple's platform, so then the privacy might be a little bit different. So just to wind it back though, the foundation models doesn't give you access to the backend server and the things like that. So you only get access to the models that are on the device. So you can't really use this with the assumption that you can use Apple servers, and you can't get free ChatGPT API keys this way either. Like, you don't get access to those two off devices things. And so if you watch some of the foundation models videos on this thing, Apple does a really good job saying, like, you got to remember that this is not like ChatGPT. Like, it's an on-device LLM, so it has 3 billion parameters, which is still very good for a model. But compared to things like ChatGPT, which was the example Apple used here directly, those ones have 100 billion parameters. So what Apple likes to say in these things is, it will feel and behave a bit differently to like the server scale models, but which will give you a lot more like accuracy and the likes. And you have to like sort of learn how to work with the on-device models. Things like you need to segment your tasks for it sometimes, and learn how to like word it concisely so it works properly. And they say like this, you'll get good at this. Like you'll start to intuit what it will say the more you use it. So they just encourage you to play with it and see what kind of results you get out of it. So some of the pros of this is just really good. Is it works offline, which is fantastic. It's really good, so you don't have to worry about bandwidth and the likes. It ensures data privacy because all your data stays on the device. It doesn't leave the device at all, which is really good. So that's a really good selling point you can give to your users. And certainly you can, it's verifiable, and you can definitely promise, like, other AI services, if it goes off device, you can't really guarantee where the data goes. But here you can say, like, no, it stays on device. And so this is really, really good for privacy. And the best thing ever, I'll talk about like binary sizes down the line, but it doesn't count towards your app binary size. So this is great because you get this full LLM capability, but you don't have to add like a 10 gigabyte model file to your app binary. So really quickly, I think this is going to like follow into like what Amy was saying yesterday. Doing like a really quick query to the foundation models is super, super simple. You just have to make a language model session object and then use Swift concurrency to await a response. So here we go. I said, You're an Australian iOS developer conference. What would they probably say in an Australian way? G'day, mates. I was like, yep, I can confirm that. That wasn't hallucinated. That's what we actually say most of the time. Yeah, that's it. Job done. Thanks for listening. But no. Okay, cool. The thing I always like to definitely do when something I feel like folks need to be aware of, and just whenever you want to do these things, the first thing you need to always do is check the device for capability. Because, of course, Apple Intelligence isn't on every iOS device. It's actually quite limiting. Like, I was checking the list last night of like supported iPhones on iOS 26. And there's like 15 models right now, like all the way to the iPhone 11. So you've got like 11 Pro. You got like the 12 Pro, non-12. And currently, as you can see, there's only like you got the 15 Pro, all the 16s, which is like the non-Pro, the Pro, and then the E. So that's 4 iPhone models supported right now. Thankfully, it's a little bit better on iPad because there's a lot of M-series iPads, and any Apple Silicon Mac supports it. But even if you're on a supported device, users still have to opt into it because by default, until you turn it on, there's no models on the actual device. It actually has to download the models. I don't know how big the models are. Like, I'm sure there's a couple gigabytes, but Apple doesn't say it. It just says downloading models. And so definitely before you start any of this, you need to make sure that you actually go through and check the state of the device to see if it's A, if it's supporting, B, if the models are downloaded, and C, like, it's even possible, like, it's enabled, but the models are still downloading, and so you have to defer and things like that. So I definitely want to say, like, if you want to start using this technology, you have to come up with like a nice way of encouraging users to get it and finding some kind of backup path if the users don't have it on that current device. Something that Amy talked about yesterday, which is really cool, that you can actually set like a top-level set of instructions. So you can set like the stage, you can set like the mood and like the tone for upcoming queries. So you can set this once in instructions, and then after that you can then like do multiple queries that then use those instructions as the base. So you can just like set the tone or set the context, which is really cool. But then something that Apple actually mentioned in their talk is that when you do this, there is actually like a context window size. So as you're doing that, it's keeping track of the previous queries, and which is really cool because that means you're having a proper conversation. But there is a point where, depending on the device capabilities, you actually hit that context window limit, and then moving forward, any sessions you actually try and any queries you do will just fail. And so Apple does provide a lot of sample code to show like how do you, if you do hit the window limit, how do you like take the existing context and like dump it from the first session and then recreate a new session and then inject that in so you can start again. So that's in the deep dive into Apple Foundation Models framework to look into. So there's a lot of like considerations we have here that that you need to like be aware of when you work with this kind of stuff. And this is like my favorite feature, like Amy mentioned yesterday, like. When I was playing with ChatGPT, I was like, how do I get like data from a string and then like put that into an actual struct? And so for like ChatGPT, you could ask it to export a list as JSON and then do JSON parsing. But the cool thing here is you can just define a struct that has all the properties for the data you want, and each property has a guide, like basically saying what the intent of that property is. And then you can just make that an extra parameter when you do the query, and then you get the result. You get the result as a list of as a proper Swift struct that you can use everywhere. And so this example here was a list of I set the guide to be a list of recommended locations in Melbourne. I'm not actually from Melbourne, so I have no idea if these places are true. Like Melbourne Zoo sounds like something I would make up, but is it true? Is the zoo here called Melbourne Zoo? Okay, yep, okay, it's legit. Thank you. Okay, yep, so legit. Thank you. Yeah, so it's a reasonable assumption. Like this wasn't hallucinated, hopefully. Yeah, so that's really cool. Now instead of trying to like parse this out, I can just say like, give me a list, an array of strings of popular locations in Melbourne. Like it's so little code and so powerful. And so hopefully I'm not just like repeating Apple's documentation. One more slide. Here's all the suggestions that Apple suggests you can use this for, which is really cool. You can do things like in your app, if you have like a search bar, you can do like suggested searches for things that the user might like to look at. You can like take other textual content from your app and dynamically generate AI summaries, which I think is really powerful for a lot of text-based apps, especially if you have like a lot of really rich text in the app and like maybe it's too long to read. And this one's really cool. The final example Apple gives is you can use it in games. So you could actually have like NPCs that actually respond to your queries. And that was making me think more like, well, okay, if you can make like games that like generate their own like content, I wonder if you could take this a bit further and you could actually start doing things like you could have like dynamic error messages in your app. Like you can make it that every time that a new error happens, instead of it being the exact same string, you could make something else happen. Or maybe you could do something crazy like translate it to Gen Z or something, or something to make the thing a bit more exciting than like, an error occurred, please try again. So Apple's actually done 4 videos this year. I definitely recommend checking these out. Definitely, I think that there's some really powerful potential here. Like this definitely unlocks new classes and categories of apps. I'm definitely thinking that there's some really cool stuff here. And hopefully, as more iPhones and iOS devices that support Apple Intelligence come out, we'll be able to use this more and more in our apps. So why am I specifically excited for this? Like usually when I jump off the deep end into something, it's usually because I have a problem I've been trying to solve for a long time, and now I'm like, oh wow, this actually might be able to solve the problem. And so again, like I mentioned yesterday, I make a comic book app in my free time. And the idea is you buy your comics from places like Humble Bundle. Humble Bundle does like a comic deal like every 2 weeks, which is fantastic. So I have an absolutely ridiculous comic collection now thanks to Humble Bundle. And so rendering the comics is actually not too hard. Like that's the easy bit. Like extracting the JPEGs from the zip file and putting them on the screen is the easy bit. But the thing that's been like bugging me this entire time is that when I drag it into the app, obviously the best I can do is display the file name, which from Humble Bundle is always like words like compressed together without any spaces, and then .pdf. And I was like, I would really like it if I could like make that look a lot nicer. Like if I could probably like try and extrapolate what the actual name of the comic is. And of course, they don't actually put any metadata in. That would have been too easy. Like if I could just go in and grab from the PDF or the zip file what the title is, that would be good. But we got nothing. We got the file name and we got the actual the cover page, and that's it. And so it'd be great if I could find a way to take that file name and then split it out to that. And so things like removing the extension and removing the underscore with a space is the easy bit, but I'm sure, as most folks could probably understand, that trying to separate 2 English words that have been put together without a space is actually really hard because there's no like mathematical model short of like brute forcing it with a dictionary. For a long time, I was hoping I could use the Vision framework, which is available on all current iOS devices, to like see if I could extract the title from the actual image. I could like load in the cover page and try and do extraction of all the text there. But that that yeah, it depends on I guess it depends on like what kind of crazy stylized font you're using, and then there's other implications too, like if the author's name is on the cover, or like, you know, a tagline, something like how do you semantically work out this is the title of the comic, and like that's like a tagline or the publisher name. And I was like, maybe you can use the two together. Like if you could extract the two words from the cover and then map that back to the file name, you could try and maybe work out that way if there's a way to like isolate those words and then pull them out. And so this technique is something called word segmentation. Yeah, and the idea is like you can try and, I think the best way I found in Stack Overflow is there are people out there who have actually made like a giant database of like all the most common English words out there. But there are other implications as well. There's like a certain level of fuzziness you have to be aware of. Because like I'm using Star Trek as an example here, because trying to like just brute force that as a word becomes even more tricky, because, you know, star and start are two English words. So at that point you have to try and work out like from the remainder of the string, which word was that, in the sense that, you know, maybe REK is a, you know, like get wrecked or something that is becoming English at the moment. So, so you've got this additional like certain levels of fuzziness that they're really hard to solve in software, but like this is like a really good use case for AI, for learning models. So I went through. I actually couldn't figure out how to get the right prompts to make this work. So I actually asked Claude. So Claude, this is great, using one AI to fuel another AI. I got Claude to write the prompt to work out how to actually get this file name to actually come out correctly. And as you can see, if you say all the rules, like you need to remove the file extension, replace the underscores, and maybe cheating by explicitly saying Star Trek in the prompts, but it works. Like from there, I just insert this file name and I actually get the whole thing out. As you can see at the bottom, it actually works perfectly. I was like, this is awesome. This is like a problem I've been trying to solve for a very long time, and this seems to be like a really viable way of solving it. So like this is a really cool thing to see, and this is why I'm really excited, because this like definitely enables really cool like capabilities moving forward on iOS apps. And so before foundation models came along, I was still trying to solve this problem, and I was looking at, like I mentioned before, I was looking at other things like I got a buddy who works at Google who told me I could definitely do it with the downloadable version of Gemma, which is Google's developer-oriented AI models. But I looked at Gemma, I looked at like Gemma's 55 gigabytes, and I'm like maybe it compresses down. Maybe if I put like maybe that's like a bunch of like, just like, you know, in Xcode builds, maybe that's all like debug symbols. Maybe it's a bit smaller than that. But yeah, 55 gigabytes, and I'm like, I kind of want this functionality, but I don't think I want it that badly that I'm going to like make each user download 55 gigabytes for the capability. I was like, okay, well, so that's a big problem, right? If you want this capability now, maybe that's fine. You could actually build like a harness like deferred download, and actually say in your app, like, if you want this capability, tap here to download it, but keep in mind it might be 55 gigabytes. You know, especially when the app bundle itself is like 20 megabytes. Like, it's so vastly disproportionate. It's like, yeah, this seems kind of silly. And then of course there's ChatGPT, which is obviously like the golden standard. And obviously this thing works really well, and I tested it many times and it gave me exactly what I wanted. I just said, like, give me the comic book name as like analyze the name and try and break out like the title and the subtitle, and like if there's a volume number or a chapter number, and like that thing works perfectly and it's amazing. But then you've got these other implications that it's kind of expensive, especially if a lot of folks use it, and you're gonna have to like foot that bill, which might be fine if you can like pass it, you know, you can do a subscription, pass that along to the users. But the other one is obviously privacy, because obviously I feel like a person's comic book collection is very, very personal, and so uploading that to ChatGPT might also be like a very big privacy concern. The nice thing about Apple is you can guarantee that Apple is like really privacy centric, and so that wouldn't happen. And so going back to that, we got all these pros and cons of the foundation models. Like, it's free, doesn't add to the build size, unlocks a whole new set of capabilities, but at the same time, you know, it's on a very limited number of iPhones. It requires it to even be enabled, so it's not even on by default. So users have to know about this and opt into it. And so yeah, if we can come up with a fallback, I'd love to find a fallback that would work on every iOS device. I'm still working on it. And as your suggestions come to me after, definitely that's a great thing to think about as well. Because right now, focusing on just this might leave out a ton of users that could be potentially using your app. But here we go to the end. We have to talk about the elephant in the room. Before I continue, just to really hammer this home, like, this is my own opinion, and wherever I work at the moment might have different opinions about the whole state of AI at the moment. Just because when you think about, like, AI is like a little bit contentious at the moment in terms of how, like, the hype around in the world, and like how many companies are going all in on AI, and how investments, like AI companies, like, just absolutely blowing up. It's just crazy. And certainly there's been a lot of chats about even around dev world, like hearing some of the AI escapades of the organizers here, we're definitely at this point at the moment where AI is like so huge and so many people are like scrambling to get in on it that it's like finding out a way to use it in a way that's responsible, ethical, and sustainable is definitely a really hot topic at the moment. Certainly, I feel like a lot of companies are trying to hoover up as much data as they can and doing it in such a way that they can get away with it before like the copyright laws and the likes catch up. So there's still like a huge lot of discussion about how like legally okay is this, and certainly as far as I can definitely like say, like I definitely think Apple would be leading this charge because Apple went on the record saying they tried to train this AI that's powering Apple Intelligence really ethically. They pay people for the content that they train it on. They use only publicly sourced material. And there's still like a bunch of copyright concerns as well, because I think there was a recent court case where it is interesting to think that could it be considered fair use that if you train your model on some data and you can't get that data back, then suitably that seems like it was transformative enough to count as fair use. But then there's been instances already where someone asked an AI, like, could you just like read back to me the first chapter of Harry Potter? It's like, oh, sure, here's Harry Potter chapter 1. It's like, that's not really transformative, is it? So so there's this giant discussion about like I feel like the copyright laws will need to update at some point. They probably will at the moment with how huge this is on the radar. But certainly Apple's done as much due diligence as they can to make sure everything they've done is like legally copyright free and in the clear as possible, which is really fantastic to see. And again, like I mentioned earlier, it's also really fantastic to see that Apple takes the privacy really seriously. If a request leaves your device, it's done in such a way that it is anonymized and the data is only retained as long as needed. And Apple went on record last year saying that if anyone wants to verify this as a third party, we'll make the code available to them so they can verify that we are actually aiming to make this really safe and you know I trust Apple's when Apple says like we take privacy seriously and like we'll make sure that any data you send up is not retained. Like I really support that and recognize that, especially when like the alternative is like I think it was like an SEO glitch a little while ago where like people were able to what was it you could publicly choose to like make your query to ChatGPT public, and then you get like a shareable link to send to friends. But then somehow Google was able to index those, so a bunch of private conversations appeared on Google briefly, and so that kind of stuff happens. So it's a bit scary to think that we're at this point where other websites have already set precedents where sometimes the user data, like private conversations or stuff that may have been assumed to be private, have leaked, and so this is like a really big concern. So it's really fantastic to see that Apple's going above and beyond to try and really to avoid that from happening, which is fantastic. And the last one, like the thing that always makes me a little bit scared is that like AI takes a lot of energy. Like to get that one vibe coded prompt, it probably takes a ton of energy. And I still really love and respect that Apple is committing to be 100% carbon neutral by 2030, which means that I'm assuming, you know, they said they made that commitment before they announced Apple Intelligence, but hopefully it's still on the roadmap to be able to do this while Apple Intelligence is also like, you know, now powering a lot more of their servers. And the last thing as well is like, of course, Apple being the closed garden that it is, they've already set like a giant set of requirements for the foundation model. So obviously they're very particular about people using the foundation models to do cheeky things. So there's already like, I'm sure this is like done during app review as well. Like the Apple will check how you're using the foundation models during app review, and so they keep it very clean, and you can do a lot of really you can only do certain things that are validated, which is fantastic to see that this can't be abused in true Apple fashion. So seems legit. Checks out. But there is one more thing that's kind of a little bit crazy to this. Like this is another personal story, kind of like what I alluded to earlier. Like the thing about AI, it's like it came along so quickly and then came off as like such a giant hype. Like everyone's like super excited, and like a lot of these companies spinning up now are like trying to be like, I don't know what the problem is, but AI is clearly the solution. Like we're in this mindset of like if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So this is another anecdote from my comic app. I actually fell into this trap where I was like, I have a problem, and I think the solution is AI, and I didn't take a step back and think about the problem exactly. So this is what I want to talk about here. So here's a little anecdote. Another feature of my app is you can actually download Japanese comics of Humble Bundle as well. But Japanese, like Asian comics, like from Korea and Japan and even I think China as well, they read in the opposite direction. So in terms of a simple scroll view, Western comics read with pages coming in from the right-hand side, and obviously if you try to swipe to the left, there's nothing there. But then by default, I also render, there's no real way to tell if the comic's Japanese or English. So I have at the moment, I have a manual button that flips the page direction. So then when you're reading a different comic, it comes in the direction. So obviously that's a bit biased. I should definitely make it that if the iPad's set to Japanese, it should probably set that to left by default. I can probably make a reasonable assumption that a Japanese iPad will read Japanese comics. But as you can see, this whole interaction having to set the page direction manually is really annoying. And again, there's no metadata. There's no way to try and detect. Maybe I could tell if the file name's in the non-English characters. I could probably assume that it's assume it's a non-English comic. But again, it's another problem where it's this could be a nice usability win if I could make a way to detect which direction the pages should flow in without the user having to manually specify which directions they flow in. So a few years ago, I was actually trying with Create ML. I was let me just dump all the JPEGs from all the comics I bought in Humble Bundle and then put them into Create ML and just have one folder that says these are left comics and then right comics. With the idea being that if you just train enough data, maybe there's some semantic styling, maybe the way that fonts are rendered or the way strokes are arranged. You can start to build a model that could just tell when a comic is from a specific region of the world, which is really iffy, not great. And definitely, again, would that even be legal? These are comics I've purchased, but is training a model off them legal? And maybe America would say yes, because you can't. It's unlike reading back the Harry Potter. You can't really. When I'm training data on trying to figure out if it's left or right, the amount of semantic data in there probably means you can't recreate the comics, so it's probably fine. But maybe that's just something I just don't want to deal with, because down the line, this actually might blow up. It might depend on the country you're in. Maybe it's fine in America, but maybe law in Australia will pass, and that will make it not good. But then I kind of took a step back and was hang on. Hang on. This is silly. This is a ton of data for something that's probably not going to work really well. Surely there's a better way. And then just was thinking about it on the train on the way home from work one day, and I was wait a minute. The user already knows, the user implicitly already knows what kind of comic it is. They put it in there and they'll know what direction it scrolls in. And because this is just a simple scroll view, what I decided to do instead is just make it that depending which direction you scroll in, we just put, as a scroll view of reusable cells, just in one single scroll view, just make it whichever direction the user starts scrolling in first, just make that the direction. So that way you can make it if it's a Western comic, the user just starts swiping right, we'll just commit to that direction. But if not, they can go back and start swiping to the left. And the app will just automatically reconfigure the scroll view to make sure the pages flow in that direction automatically. Of course, and I was that works really good. I was hey, there we go. So we solved the problem of just thinking about UX and solve the problem in a more pragmatic way. Of course, a bunch of users sent me an email saying this is a bug, this is broken. Why is it doing this? I'm getting two sets of pages, and I'm no, that was on purpose. Oh, okay, all right. So clearly there's another UI and UX issue where I need to explain to the users that was so you don't have to go up and manually press the toggle button. So that was another lesson about running a product. But it was really cool because I was like, this is a problem I was going to try and solve with AI. I reached for the AI solution immediately without actually thinking about the problem. But then but the thing I want to take away is again, if you try and treat every solution as an AI, every problem is an AI solution, you should probably just take a step back and try and work out what you're actually trying to solve. And maybe there is an easier way via UX or some other programmatic solution that you can solve this in a way that isn't as fuzzy as solving it with an AI model. So I definitely just want to say I think the big problem right now, of all the conditions we're seeing in the world, is that everyone's treating AI as a magical bullet that solves everything. But I still feel we need to take a step back and realize what we're trying to solve. And from that point forward, we can then actually move forward and use the best facets of AI and the best facets of other technologies and put that together to make the best product that you can. So that's all I have today. Yeah, by the way, I'm really excited about the Foundation Models API. It seems really easy and intuitive. It's very little code, and it makes it very easy to get proper formatted Swift out of a very easy prompt. And I feel just with Amy's talk yesterday with Health Kitty, it's already starting to enable new classes of apps on the App Store, which is extremely exciting to see. But it's still early days. I'm still just a bit cognizant that if you want to use it, you do have to realize that you will only be able to support it on a very limited number of iOS devices at the moment, and Macs as well. But at the same time, like I said before, don't go for it immediately. See if there's a way to solve your problem in a more clean way first, and then once you've realized that this might be the best way to do it, then lean on it. But don't try and default to AI out of the gate. Always make a proper consideration about what it is you're trying to build. But at the same time, like a huge shout out to Apple, because Apple, Apple in classic form, like came into the race very, very late, and they did it in such a way that was very considered and very, very privacy centric, which is very different to what all the other companies are doing. But it was fantastic to see. And yeah, just like what Amy did, if you do build anything of the foundation models, please be sure to share it at DevWorld next year. Thanks for listening. Have a great rest of the conference.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know about you. I'm really enjoying the kind of thoughtful contemplation of AI, right, and where it
is
exists in the work we do, both in the talks, but also just out there and with all of you. Just it keeps coming up, and it's cool that we're thinking about it with clear heads and hopefully a bit of reason. Any questions for Tim?
I'm wondering if you had any trouble with like the speed or latency, I guess, with the responses coming through, and how that factored into how you've integrated it with
like the foundation model.
Yeah.
It seems to be very, like I said earlier, like Apple says you need to play with it to get like a good read. In my own testing, it was really interesting to see that the longer you made the prompt, the more it would think about it. So it's like if you can keep the prompts really short and concise, like it was actually very, very quick. Like it would reconcile that DevOld one like less than 3 seconds. But then the much longer one where I said like here's a list of constraints and please analyze it and give me the results. That one took up about 10 seconds, which again is probably fine if you architect your UI in such a way that you can say like it's loading and processing. It's not a big deal, but it is something to keep in mind that the complexity of the prompt will drive the latency of the actual output.
Yeah. So for the names of the comics, have you had to put some like UI in there or sort of some indication that it's happening?
Something I was thinking about doing like as well was like adding like an open panel where people could put their own regular expressions in. Like you could like try and work out if it says vol 1, you could use regular expressions to output volume 1, things like that. It's something I've been thinking about, but at the moment, that's about it in terms of UI.
Hey, Tim.
What's up, Amy?
So, with the parsing of the titles, have you considered the natural language framework as an alternative?
I did. I tried it, and it wasn't. If the words are still stuck together, it wasn't able to separate them. Like, I did look into it as well. Actually, I was looking on Stack Overflow. I couldn't find it again, but I did find a question on Stack Overflow asking about it, and Rob was in the answer saying, no, it's not possible. And I'm like, I know that guy. I was like, yeah. I was like, thanks for dashing my dreams, Rob. Yeah. No, I looked into it, but the natural language processing, it's more like semantic analysis. It can't do word segmentation. But I did look into that, and the answer was no, it can't. So
can you parse HTML with regex?
You can with the right attitude. No.
You guys know.
Yeah.
So I've been playing around with foundation models. I've been in past sort of making ChatGPT wrappers.
Nice.
My concern with foundation models is, do we know if Apple changes the model or does something, will it break our app?
That's a really good question. I was thinking about that because the foundation models aren't tied to iOS versions. Like they are, when you enable Apple Intelligence in the settings app, that's when the model comes down. So it's very easy that down the line, Apple might create new versions that then automatically download or moving forward will come down. So it's very possible. I don't know. You would hope that it wouldn't change, but I guess we'll see if that actually happens. But it's definitely that's a legitimate concern that if the models change, the output might change down the line. I guess it's still very early days, but I'm sure we'll find out if that actually happens.
Just to sort of answer that one as well, and maybe not a recording one, but having chatted with the dev relations people at their recent workshops, they did say that each version of iOS can potentially have a different model version, which means your app, your usage will likely need to be supporting all of those different model versions. How you then want to do it is up to you. But yes, expect differences between versions. Hopefully it won't be like dot versions, so 26.1.1 and stuff like that. But yeah, expect it, unfortunately.
Okay. This seems fine. Thanks, Amy.
Hey, Tim. Good talk. You mentioned that the user has to have Apple Intelligence turned on.
Yes.
Do you get, like, from the OS a nice way to guide the user to turn that on, like when you don't have Bluetooth turned on or push turned on and that sort of stuff?
There was that slide where there's like you can check the capabilities. Where was it?
But you're talking about like affordances for guiding the user to do that, right?
Like there was like this slide here. I don't think there's a permission problem. Essentially, it just sees the state, and so that would be your cue to say like you need to go to the settings app and check the checkbox on. But as you can see, there's a lot. It actually gives you a lot of granular details, like if it's available, or if it's unavailable because the device just doesn't have the right hardware, or if it's unavailable because it's not enabled in systems, or it's unavailable because it's still downloading, things like that. So you can see what the state is, and then give your own UI like feedback to the user about what the state is at the moment. No worries.
All right, we'll finish there. Big hand for Tim.
Thank you.
Terrific as always.